So it turns out there are really only 5 different scenarios that every offer is going to fit in. And so this cheat sheet breaks down the psychology and the strategy for each one of those scenarios so you know how to frame the conversation correctly. And if you guys are interested in getting a copy of this cheat sheet, comment below cheat sheet. So stick around to the end of this video because I'll be going step by step on how to handle each scenario so you have a game plan and know how to frame your offers correctly, have better conversations, and as a result, make more money for your business. What are the 5 different scenarios? Well, the 5 different scenarios for any of the offers will depend on the days on market and the Zillow view count. So these are the 5. 1 is high days on market and a high view count. 2 is high days on market with a low view count. 3 is low days on market with a high view count. 4 is low days on market with a low view count. And then the 5th one is off market. So for each scenario, I'll talk about the psychology going on behind the listing, some of the strategy that you'll employ and the questions you might ask, or how to structure your questions to keep the frame based on the psychology behind the listing itself so that you could use it to position your offer and conversations effectively. Now, this video is not going to have a breakdown out of how to exactly have those conversations. It's more so structured on the psychology and the strategy. So if you're interested in seeing how to have these convos, these discovery calls, these offer calls, watch my video on the 7 different types of agent conversations with the link in the link below. So first one is the high days on market and the high view count. This basically means a lot of people have seen this property and it hasn't gone on their contract or sold yet, so it's still listed. So the market's usually seen this and passed on it. And what that means is a higher likelihood than not that this is just a price stubborn seller. They're stuck on one price and they're not going to accept anything else. You know, probably saying like, my neighbor sold their house for X. So they're totally stuck on retail value for a house that is not retail. Another way you could look to see if this is basically a price stubborn seller is look at the price cuts. If there's been no price cuts whatsoever and they've been on market for like 85 days, again, chances are they are stuck at that one price. But there's a caveat to that. There might be an explanation as to why it's been on market for so long. It could be that they had unruly tenants and it was almost impossible to show. So it's been listed for so long and they just got the tenants out or they're about to get the tenants out and then they could finally start showing the property. So they might have a ton of interest on it and offers that make sense, but because of the tenants, they were not able to make anything happen. So that being the case, there's a justification for the high days on market. Doesn't mean the market's passed on it. It's just that was the situation. Or another one is maybe they had to go through probate and they had to list it. Part of the probate, they had to list it and it's been a 90-day probate situation. They have a ton of offers, but they couldn't accept anything until probate was finalized and they could move forward. So that's another justification. However, if there is no days on market justification, it's most likely a stubborn seller. Here, the agent might start to get frustrated with the seller, especially if they've tried telling the seller, hey, let's do a price cut, and the seller wants to keep the price the same. They know this listing's not moving, it's stale at this point, and it's starting to get frustrating because nobody wants to keep a listing for a long time, especially not one where they're not really getting much activity on, or if they know it's priced too high. It's just not a good look. So they could have some frustration with the listing itself and the seller, but because this is their job, they're still trying to protect the relationship with the seller. So they are still trying to do whatever they can to get this thing done closer to the price that they want. So now what are you going to do here? What's your strategy? So your strategy here is first ask why it's still listed. Like, hey, just curious. It seems like you had a lot of views. Why do you think this thing is still listed? Was there like tenant issues or did it go through a probate or it's just like the seller's dead set on price, right? So that's going to give you the answer instead of wondering what it was and assuming, just ask outright. Why is this thing still listed? Again, the next thing is don't assume the market rejected it yet. Confirm that there is no justification for high days on market besides seller stubbornness and then besides seller stubbornness. Because if there is a justification, right? Like if it was a probate issue or it was unruly tenants and the price makes sense, you could be closer to list because when you market it out, or you get it on the contract, you could explain to people why this was sitting for so long. If it was just seller stubbornness, then that just means it's too high of a price. So you're likely going to have to be pretty significantly off list price. And now if there's no explanation as to why it's been listed for so long and no price cuts, lean into the urgency, connect with the agent, understand how frustrating it might be. Push harder into why it's not selling because it's over the price, market rejecting it. This is the resale. With the rehab and everything, there's no way you could justify over this. And they also likely might not be getting as many offers. And if the seller has been super stubborn, they might not be getting that many follow-ups either. So lean into urgency and time decay on this. Time decay of the listing. Now, what do I mean by urgency and time decay? you could use something like, hey, I know that they're still waiting for that right offer. I mean, but at this point, it's been 85 days on market. Like, do you think that right offer is coming in, or is there a reason why the seller thinks that that right offer might be coming in? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the right offer might not happen, but my offer is real. And as you know, and then you start to explain to them that the longer it sits, usually that means lower offers, right? So remind them that, hey, in 60 days, if I'm still following up, my offer might not be the same, is not going to be the same as it is today. If we wait another 60 days, based on the way the market has been going, my offer is not going to be the same as it is today. It's going to go lower. So the longer this thing sits, that usually also means the lower the offers are going to be. So this might be their best shot at getting a price around where I'm offering now. Now, if the agent mentions that they've had other offers, right, ask when were those? Because those other offers might be when they were first listed. Oh no, we had one close to list price. Okay, when was that? Did they offer that recently, or was that like 30, 40 days ago? Oh no, that was when we first listed it. Okay, honestly, that's a solid offer. I would reach out to that person, see if they're still ready to go at that price. And if they are, I mean, to be honest with you, I think you move forward at that. So tell them to check if it's still good. So basically on this, it's just there's a few reasons why it's still listed, but you want to confirm that. You want to push into the urgency and the time decay. So basically when it's high days on market, high view count, you want to confirm why it's still active. You want to push into urgency and time decay and try to explain why your offer taken now is better than waiting 30, 40, 60 days. So the next scenario 2, is high days on market and low Zillow view count. That means by now, people aren't even really looking at this thing anymore, or really weren't looking at it to begin with because the view count is so low. So this usually means that the property is either way overpriced or it's in a bad location or area, and people really aren't interested in it based on where it's listed right now. Now, the seller and the agent might start feeling defeated, or they might start feeling defeated and thinking they might not get their price, or the seller just might still be unrealistic on price, regardless of what the market is saying, and then the agent might not be seeing eye to eye. Like I said, it could be in a bad pocket, could be rural, or just could be grossly overlisted. Check the price movement. What are some strategies here? Check the price movement. Have there been a lot of price cuts? That will show momentum. Have there been a lot of price cuts? That will show motivation. Were there a couple of big price cuts and then a small one? Usually if there's a couple of big price cuts and then recently a small one and maybe another small one, that usually means it's listed right around that seller's bottom line because they can't really cut the price anymore. Otherwise, they're going to be losing money. Had there just been only multiple small price cuts, like maybe 2K, 3K, 5K, multiple small ones could also say the same thing. It's a tight deal. Seller may not really have that much room to move, which is also why it might be listed for so long and have low days on market. Why it must be listed for so long and have a low view count. So you want to make sure that also it's not too tight of a deal. Like they don't have a 400K mortgage and ARV is only 425 and there's really nothing you can do here. So again, ask the question and use the price history to tell you the story also. Next thing is you want to leverage the low market interest and attention to make your offer seem even sexier. Hey, look, it looks like it's been listed for quite a bit, not really getting that much attention right now. Might be the best chance of getting this thing finally done. So you could finally get paid, move on to the next listing, and the seller could get what they need and move on with their life. So we might be the best shot at getting this one done. And usually with this, because the market's rejected it, you need to be well below list price. Unless they did some crazy high price cut. If they did like a 60K price cut, like less than 5 days ago, you could then be closer to list. But if no real price cut and no price cut recently, you want to be significantly off list price for these types of deals. And then you want to push on the motivation and create the urgency, right? So like when you do your discovery call or you're telling the agent about this, you're usually going to find out the motivation as to why this thing is being sold in the first place. And you want to lean into that a little bit more, the motivation, getting this done. I know they want to move forward with their family. Are they willing to wait another 70 days before they could go ahead and do that? Or, is price really that important? Or is it getting out as long as they can net close to what they want or need, or as long as they could net close to what they need, not necessarily what they want, are they willing to move forward? Listen, like really, you just told me there's not really any offers on the table, not really any views or movement happening on this. If they want to get this done, I might be the best shot. My offer is here, as long as it's not ideal for the seller, but it is real. And, we can make this happen within 21 days or so. Everything could be open. We know what happens with these stale listings. Usually the offers aren't going to be getting better. If anything, they're going to be getting lower. So the longer that the seller holds out, like I just want them to know that chances are they're going to be settling for a lower offer. I mean, I hope it comes in higher, but we usually know the odds of that happening. So your angle is just basically to let them know, like, the market's rejecting this. Here's your offer. As long as it works for the seller and they're not losing money or paying to get this thing done, like this might be the best option besides it going stale for another 30 days and then your offer changing or other offers getting lower. But that's the high days on market and low view count. Usually overpriced, bad pocket, and you just got to push on urgency, time decay, the lack of attention, lack of market interest to show that you might be their best their best chance of getting it done at this price before it stays stale for another 60 days and the offers come in lower and lower, especially if the market is shifting in the opposite direction. The next is low days on market and high Zillow view count. Oof. This is usually a hot listing. This is usually a hot listing where the seller has multiple offers and some of them are either at or even above list price. The agent might be overwhelmed with the amount of offers that they're getting and the amount of calls that they're getting. And they're usually just in fielding mode, just going to take all the offers and say, hey, just send me your offer. We're accepting the highest offer by this time. So if you're not serious, if you're not really close to list price, the chances of them staying on the phone or even answering your questions or even entertaining your offer are going to be zero. You have to have a strong offer with these low days on market, high view count listings. So like I said, if you're far off list, you're going to get rejected fast. They have all of the offers coming in. They might have 20 offers, 5 of them at list, 10 of them over list price, 10, 15K over list price. So a lot of the times it's going to be highly competitive. And this is the one where you want to come in super strong. So you really want to come in polished, credible, competent, know what you're talking about, get to the point and give them a strong number. Usually you're going to be starting at your MAO or right around your MAO. You're not really going to be playing no games, bring me a counter, all this stuff. You're going to be starting at what you think is the max you could do to still make this deal happen. Otherwise, they're going to be offers most likely better than yours and you're not even going to be in the mix. So the strategy, like I said, is you have to come in strong. Usually come in right around your MAO. If you're too far off, you're out. The next is you want to build rapport and credibility with the agent. Show them that you're competent, you're confident in your numbers and what you're doing, and you're a closer, not another tire kicker, which half those offers might be from. The more confident you sound, the better your terms and the stronger your price and everything, then the higher likelihood you have of getting this under contract. And you also want to know, are you reviewing offers as they come? Are you fielding all these offers and waiting till this certain day to make the decision on the best offer? Is it the best price that's going to win? Is it the best terms? If they get 250 0 day versus a 275 3-day, which one would you think they would go for? You want to kind of gauge where their head's at. Is there room to beat the top offer if I have better terms? Try to ask for less licks. If you build great rapport, ask, just tell them listen, a lot of these people that you're negotiating with, some of them might be a pain in the ass to deal with. I'm going to be very easy to deal with. If you get an offer your seller's about to accept and you know that I'm already in the mix as well, can you give me the last shot to try to beat that offer, whether I beat them on terms or I beat them on price? And then try to beat the herd. Frame it as, listen, you're probably getting blown up on these offers. Without having to sift through hundreds of emails and all these other offers and go back and forth with all the investors, I'll tell you what I could do. Bring it to the seller. Let me know where they need to be. Let's just make this happen. If I could come over list price to get this done, I have no problem. But I want this deal, and it'll be easier than having to deal with all of this other shit that you're gonna have to sift through. But like I said, you're likely gonna need to start strong. I had one of these where I had to go over list. I had to offer. It was listed at 250. I offered 265, 3-day inspection period, 10K EMD, and I won the deal even though there were 3 offers higher than mine, and we were able to get that done. So start at MAO. Most likely gonna have to shift to a 3-day inspection period. Most likely you're gonna have to go up from a 5K to maybe a 10K earnest money deposit. Possibly have to go slightly over at your MAO to get this thing done. So you just want to frame it as it's a hot listing. And as long as you could give what the seller wants and at least be within the top 5 of the offers, just let the agent know it's going to be easier dealing with me than going through all the other nonsense and noise that you have to deal with right now. Scenario number 4. Low days on market, low view count. Basically, it's still early in listing cycle to really know what's happening. If it's a bad listing, if it's the bad area, whatever it is, it's pretty early. Sellers and agents really not really feeling any sort of pressure yet. Their agent is most likely though getting bombarded by wholesaler calls for sure. They'll probably be starting saying to you hey, I've been getting calls like this a lot. Don't bring me any lowball offers. We're not entertaining those. We've already declined these offers. Yada, yada, yada. Usually going to wait to see what the market comes in. So if you're not really kind of close to what they're asking, they have no problem waiting. Hey, it's only been 10 days on market. We're getting a lot of calls and offers. We're not really going to take anything that's below X price. 80% of the time, these types of listings and offers are going to be follow plays before you could get the contract, unless you're really close, kind of close, and within a 50K range, I would say, to the listing price. These are usually deals you're going to have to track until the listing gets more seasoned and becomes that high days on market, low view count, or it falls out of escrow a couple of times from tire kickers, and then you've been there following up, and you could come ahead and get it on the contract at the price that you originally had offered, as long as it's not, over 60 days from your original offer. So now the strategy here is building that relationship with the agent. Since this is most likely going to be a follow play, position yourself as somebody that if this deal keeps staying on market longer, the higher likelihood of it getting done later on is going to be with me and nobody else. But usually you're going to need to be, like I said, within 50K of the list price if you want to try to get a contract early on. Otherwise, they're going to wait and see what the market says. Or if they have high motivation, they might actually accept your offer lower if it's like a quicker term and it could be done faster. But more likely than not, it's going to be a follow-up. Offer yourself as a clean shortcut. Don't bash the price yet. Don't say it's overlisted and all that other stuff. Don't say the market's rejecting it because it's still early. It's new. But position yourself as somebody that's probably going to be the easiest person to work with and help them cut through all the noise and stop all these calls from all these people asking the same exact questions. Listen, I know you're getting a ton of these same calls, probably asking the same exact questions. I'm not really here to waste anybody's time. I know what I'm doing. I know where I got to be. And this is where I'm at. The chances are that offer that's 15, 30K or higher than mine, probably going to have a 7-day inspection period. Most likely will retrade to where I'm at or below where I'm at the end of the inspection. So instead of, I want to save you all that headache and time, might as well just move forward right now at this price. But if you want to take the chance, totally understand. I'll stay in touch. Hey, listen, if you guys want to skip the next 30 days of dealing with tire kickers, let's skip that line right now and we could just move forward at this price if this works for your seller. But then follow-up is going to be key. Listen, totally understand. They're not ready. New listing. I get it. I would want to see what the market brings me as well. But what I'll do is I'll just stay in touch every 2 weeks or so, see what's going on, stay on top of the listing. And if anything changes, give me a call, or when I call back, we'll see if we can make it happen at this number. 80% of these deals, like I said, will go on the contract on your follow-up. So chances are you might be following up 5, 6, 7, 8 times on this listing before you get on the contract. Could be a 2-month window from when it was listed and you first called to when you actually get on the contract, or longer. So again, it's a fresh listing. There's not too much motivation or pressure, actually. Do your discovery and your calls and get everything up front, build that strong rapport, and just make sure you position yourself as somebody that's going to be solid and competent to work with. And, if you're within that 50K range, chances of you getting it under contract, especially if you sound confident, is going to be pretty high. But more often than not, I would say it's going to be a follow-up call. And lastly, probably our favorite scenario is the off market or the pocket listing. These are the deals that agents might want to move off market, off the MLS, try to move it quickly. Maybe not want to waste time with listing it, getting all these photos and putting it on the MLS, all that stuff. They might want to avoid showings. They want to avoid a ton of friggin' phone calls, or maybe it's too ugly for the MLS. Or they could also just be testing the market before going live just to make sure where they're listing it makes a little bit of sense. And the market is giving them feedback on that listing. So often at this point, they're just trying to see what they could get for the most part. And if they don't get their price off market, they'll just list it on market in a couple of days later or a week or two later. Not really ready to take a big discount yet. Agent might be hoping to get this done relatively easily off market. And then, like I said, if not, they'll go ahead and list it. So if your number isn't close, they'll just say, hey, that's fine, no worries. Oh, we're not really interested in that. We're just going to go to market in a couple of days. So there's a lot less market pressure and a lot less leverage unless the seller is truly motivated, like whether it's timing, condition, stress, situation. They don't want to list it on the MLS and deal with everybody. They'd rather just do it quickly off market. The agent is actually trying to avoid MLS friction and, again, all these phone calls from wholesalers and other people. Or the home is just too distressed. It's too ugly for the MLS. So that sometimes happens as well. But usually if it's not any of those situations, there's going to be less leverage and less pressure. So the strategies, you clarify the motivation. Like you're doing the offer call. You want to figure out, is this like a price motivated? Is this kind of testing the waters type of thing? And also, what's their timeline for listing? Does your seller prefer to get this done off market right now, or you're just trying to see what you could get? And if you don't get their number, you'll just go ahead and list it on the market. If the seller gets something solid, right around closer to what they're asking, are they willing to move forward? Or again, if they don't get exactly that number, you're just going to go ahead and list it in a couple of days. When do you plan on putting this live? Is it a couple of days? Like how long do I have to take a look at this before it hits the MLS? Oh, I'm going live tomorrow, or 2 days, 3 days. Figure out the listing timeline and have your normal conversation to figure out what the motivation is as well. Offer an easy choice. And listen, if you want to get this done now, you don't have to deal with the 30 calls a day and all these offers to sift through and all those fun conversations that you don't love having, then let's just get this done now. I could give you my price, some solid terms, and we could get this all done before anybody's headaches start. And then just know that, again, if you're not too close and there's not really that high motivation, it's most likely going to get listed and you're going to be following up with the agent, and it's going to turn into one of the other 4 scenarios. So if you're within like 5-10% of ask, or again, within, depending on the price point, maybe within $20,000, $30,000, there's a good chance you could get this done before it hits. But if you're pretty far off, they're most likely going to list it. So again, build that rapport, position yourself for a strong follow-up. You could also position yourself as a fallback. Hey, listen, like I get it. Your seller wants that. Go ahead, go see the market. There is a chance that you go on market, the market rejects the price, Seller goes on the contract a couple of times at higher offers, they fall through, and then we come back and we go on the contract at the number that I'm offering right now. So if you kind of want to avoid all that, let's move forward right now and save all the time delay, because if it does take 60 days, my offer might be stale at that point, because every 30 to 60 days, if the market shifts, depending on how much, I rerun my numbers and have new offers. And so there are also some playbooks you could follow, because the situation of the off market depends. You could either, if it's priced right and it's a good deal and it's off market, follow the same strategy as the low days on market and high Zillow view count. If it's not that attractive of a price, or it's pretty overpriced, follow the same playbook as the low days on market and low view count. You're going to come in pretty aggressive with strong terms, try to get last licks and get this thing done quick. You're not going to really pussyfoot or play around with like the numbers and the terms. You're going to come in pretty strong. But if it's an overpriced off market deal or not really that attractive pricing off market, you're going to follow the same playbook as a low days on market, low view count, where you're going to go ahead and say, most likely they've gotten this rejected off market. You're going to kind of push for the follow-up and build a strong rapport with the follow-up, explain the time urgency and the decay that might happen. Go ahead and tell them to frame it like, hey, you might list this. It sits for a bit. You go back and forth, canceling contracts, and then eventually you come down to my price. Let's just avoid all that and make it happen right now. So again, but we're not gonna come off as desperate, right? We're gonna try to get this done. We're gonna push for the price that makes sense for us, but also tell them like, hey, I totally get it. If you want to list it, see what the market could say, go ahead, be my guest. I totally understand that. If not, here I am. But if it's going to be longer than 30 or 60 days, I will have to revisit my offer. Most likely we'd be coming down, especially with the way the market's been turning. So yeah, just keep me updated. So there you have it. Those are the 5 different scenarios you're going to face when making offers, and the psychology and strategy kind of behind each of those scenarios. So when you're calling and you're talking to agents or anybody and making offers, quickly identify which scenario you're in and know how to frame it based on that scenario. Structure your questions around the framing of the scenario and make sure you have relevant. I'm not going to have a low days on market, low view count conversation frame with somebody that has a low days on market, high view count. It's not going to make sense. It's completely different psychology behind it. Once you apply the right approach, you'll have better conversations and most likely land more contracts as well. Now, again, this is not how to have the conversation itself. It's more about the frame. And if you're interested in learning how to have the 7 different types of agent conversations, watch my YouTube video, which is in the link below. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me or drop a comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.